بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Okay, so probably in this section, we'll try to get into more details about the REST API. Now, the REST API, REST stands for Representational State Transfer. With respect to SDN, already I said that it is one of the commonly used web-based API. Now, why we are focusing on the REST-based API, like I have discussed some of the commonly used APIs previously. Now, why? Because with respect to SDN, so when we are using some SDN networks, where the controllers and whatever the applications you are going to use, so they will be commonly using REST APIs. So REST API is like the commonly used web service API between the applications and the controllers. So they talk to each other using the REST APIs and exchange information, and majority of the controllers and the applications probably they do support the REST API. So that's the reason we'll be getting into more on the REST API here. Now again, what is the architecture? REST API is a software architecture style. So that is going to define a set of rules for creating the web request or the web services. Now basically the REST API is going to define the rules, and these rules will be these rules nothing but it tells what will be the format of your data, how the request will be sent, in which format do the applications and the controllers when they talk to each other they do support. So it's a kind of architecture style, we can say. Of course, every vendor have their own way to send the request, the format, but the REST API is going to define one kind of architecture where most of the vendors follow that architecture, and based on that they create their own set of rules based on that architecture style. And these REST APIs act on the resources. Now resources is a generally term used to represent the type of the data that the API is requesting for. Like here, the REST API is requesting for. Like if you take an example, this device is sending a request that what is the status of the router 1. Probably that is kind of request. So that is referred as a resource. Okay. So in other words, we can say the REST API works with the resources. Now each request, each request we are sending, or each configuration changes you are sending, or whatever the information you are retrieving, they all will be referred as the resources. Okay, so that's a technical term used to define the request or the messages exchanged between them, or we can say like what is a request. So they are commonly called as resource. Like you're going to obtain some information about that particular resource, or maybe you want to add a new resource or add any new configurations, or you want to update or modify the existing resources, or you want to delete the resources or delete the configurations or any other things. So technically we call them as resources in the REST API. Now the next thing is we need to understand something about the commands or the request REST API uses. Now normally the REST API uses the standard HTTP request. Like generally there are some standard HTTP requests which are generally used in HTTP protocol, like get, post, put and delete options. So REST API also uses the same options here as well. So probably the get request is like to get the information, which is more like a read only. Like get request is just like a request send what is the status of the interface, or the application is requesting the controller saying that what is the status of the network. Okay, or our application is sending this is something what I want, this is how the network should behave, probably those things. And post request, now post request is uh, generally used to create any new resource. Probably if you're adding any new configurations or new things, that probably those things will be used with a post kind of request, which is used to submit the data. Post method is used to create mostly the new resources. So whereas put is again the standardized verb, HTTP verb, is used to make any changes to the existing resources. So if you want to modify the existing things, probably you will be using put, and delete is for deleting specific resources here. Now, again, one thing, just an overview, what we need to do is, so basically the complete APIs, they require an IP core network in order to talk between the applications. Like let's say we got some applications and then we got a controller, and then the controller again is talking to the networking devices. And of course, there will be an IP core network here. Okay, so IP core network should be the backend running. And over the IP core network, there will be some kind of HTTP based request, which are being used by the APIs. So all the web service APIs, they will be using HTTP based request as I discussed. And the same thing with the REST API as well. So this is more similar to your web request, what you get for the web page. Like when you type in www.xyz.com, you'll get a web page. Similar way here, it will be like URI. So you'll be typing the URI, like I want to get this particular network device information, and this is what I require. Okay, so basically here, if the controller is sending any request to the networking devices, they will be using the API. And this device is going to send out that information. Probably it will be using the same API, like get the routing table, how it looks, or what is the status of the interface. Okay, so most likely this is what we call it as a southbound, and this is northbound APIs. Now most of the APIs, they are supported, the REST APIs specifically, they are commonly used on the northbound. So at the point of at the time of recording, I can say the REST APIs are not commonly used on the southbound, but they are more supported on the northbound side, because most of the devices, they don't support the REST APIs. Of course, maybe in the future they may support the REST APIs, so you'll be using the REST APIs on the southbound as well. But at this point of time, while I'm recording, probably the REST APIs are normally used on the northbound side, where the applications and the controller are going to interact with each other, and the application is going to send out a request to the controller asking, what do this, these are the VLANs what I require, or what are the number of VLANs exist on that particular switch. Now based on that, again, the controller will be using a different APIs to talk to the networking devices. So mostly the REST APIs, as I said, it is more like a web-based API, web service. It's a web service API which uses the similar HTTP requests which are generally used in the HTTP protocol.